Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is the Across the Globe Film Festival, and this evening, my two guests are Luke Momo and Davis Browne from their recent film, The Stamp Collector. And they're here with us to talk a little bit about their journey with the film, about their personal lives, I hope, and just a little bit of advice on filmmaking and what they may have to offer for the young filmmakers out there that are currently in school, before school, or postgraduates. Welcome, guys.
Thank you so much, Bartek, for having us on.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you guys. I'll start off with the Stamp Collector, since it's one of your most recent films and it's doing very well, I hear. So with that, I'll just start. Who wrote the script and how did you guys come about filming it and so on?
So the script started. I wrote it with one of the co-writers, Tommy Cunningham, who is also a Fordham student. He's 2 years younger than us, and I came to him with like some notes for a short film. I worked it with him, and then we decided, oh, this should be a feature film. This is a great feature film. So then we got Davis involved as a writer on the feature film, and then we wrote a whole feature film called The Stamp Collector that we have. And then we wrote this short film. So it was a pretty roundabout way to get to writing a short film, truthfully.
And the short film is pretty much like the climax of the feature film, essentially.
Yeah, it's pretty close to it.
Awesome. I'll get into casting right away because some people may recognize that one of your actors is David Alvarez, who, if for those who don't know, he is a Tony Award-winning actor. And you may have recently seen him now out in theaters, I can say, in West Side Story. Can you guys tell me a little bit about, again, I don't want to make the film about him, but it is something that people are probably curious about, so I want to get all their questions out of the way now.
Yes, so David is a very, very unique individual. He was at a philosophy program in Ohio at a school that I'm struggling to remember the name of exactly right now. And
Case Western.
Case Western. And before this, that was when he got cast doing for West Side Story, because he had his background in Broadway. He won the Tony Award as a kid for Billy Elliot. And before that, between the time he had won that Tony Award in 2009 as a young kid, he was in the military for a couple of years. He was backpacking in Mexico. He went to NYU. He went to Fordham for a year, which is where I got to know him. And he was in a short film that I was able to do that got pretty far. It's called We Regret to Inform You. You can find it on Emmy Shockley's Vimeo page. He's just such a unique guy and does a bunch of different stuff. And he was in New York, and I had this part of Rhodes to cast for this short film. And I reached out to him, kind of thing, because we had worked together before. And I was like, hey, I think he seemed interested in science fiction and stuff based on what I had talked to him about, and he turned out he really did, and we really liked 2001: A Space Odyssey, and we just shared a bunch of film passion, kind of thing, and he loved the short and coming through and doing it, kind of thing. So that was the he's such a unique guy, and him and I saw West Side Story this weekend, and him and Mike Feist are amazing in that. And it's just amazing to see them go back and forth throughout that movie. They're really, really talented young actors.
In terms specifically of Stamp Collector, that he already went on to sort of, he was well on his way to a career, and you guys kind of were able to string him back to do the Stamp Collector, right?
Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, he shot West Side by the time West Side was done when we did this short. So yeah, he was willing to take more parts, kind of thing. Wasn't like Daniel Day-Lewis, like one part every couple of years. He could do that though too.
In terms of casting, when it comes to casting experienced versus inexperienced actors, or maybe like in this scenario, casting people who are close to you versus maybe going on backstage as Actors Access and sort of finding someone maybe not random but unfamiliar. What is your process with that? And it doesn't have to be specific to the Stamp Collector, but just in general.
That's a great question. I think like the underlining thing is like you have to build trust with people who you work with. So if you meet someone from cold, like you're saying, from backstage, or someone introduces you to someone, you just will get that vibe of like, hey, do you want to do this? Like, what's the intrigue of this for you, kind of thing. And once you build that layer of trust and like both people are willing to jump into the pool, then you just have fun, kind of thing.
It's definitely nice to work with like familiar people and people that you know how to work with. But it's also just cool to I mean work with new people, just see like different skill sets and try out, because everybody has their own process and just different ways they like to get into character. Yeah, but it is nice to definitely work with people that you kind of know what you're getting on set, and that allows for a level of predictability, and kind of just less I guess drama in a way, which is nice.
Sounds good. Luke, back to you a little bit. I know that you studied, actually, well, both of you, but we'll start with Luke. In what you studied in college, because both of you, from what I understand, didn't study filmmaking, or at least didn't major in it. Luke, let's start with you. You majored in philosophy. Was that
That's right.
was it all, were you always in filmmaking and just kind of wanted to study something else, or did you fall into filmmaking from philosophy, or was it a mixture of both?
I So my story is I realized like in junior year of high school I wanted to get into film, and I attended this professional seminar in New York. It's called The Grade, and they would bring these different speakers to talk to kids. You know, one was an EMT, one was a doctor, one was a physicist, one was a lawyer, and they would give you this talk every Saturday, once a month. And one of them was a filmmaker in my junior year, and it was this guy named uh, Tim Reckert, and he's directed like some animation films. He worked with Charlie Kaufman, or yeah, Charlie Kaufman, I think, on Anomalisa. He did like the animation for that. He's a really talented animator. So, anyways, this guy gave me a talk when I was in junior year high school. He went to Harvard. He got an undergrad degree from there. And what he said is, if you want us to do filmmaking, I recommend to not be a film major. Be a major in something else and try and learn something else, and then bring that into film. Which is a very pointed way of saying things, because there's so many amazing film programs. USC, NYU, the whole list of them, kind of thing. But I just kind of was like, oh, of course, like I'm a contrarian. I was like, I love that. Like, you want to be a filmmaker, but don't actually study it. So when my teenage brain heard that, I was like, all right, like I'll make sure to do something oddball, something strange. So that was pretty much the inception moment in terms of planting this seed.
And then we'll go to Davis. You studied theology, from what I'm hearing.
Yeah, theology. That was definitely on a whim. I went to school and also had applied to some film programs, had gotten into a few pretty solid ones, but when I went to visit, it was like you're in the film program and that's it. Like that's your life, and you're going to be around film people and you're going to live and breathe it. It's kind of like your own campus. It's just all film. And that really didn't sit right with me, because I want to be around people who like, and I like to surround myself with people that do different things. So a lot of it was that for me. Just like I have a lot of my friends were like business majors, political science majors. I had some like theater major friends, just literally everything.
Dance
And
major.
that's what, yeah, dance majors. Yeah, that was a big one too. And just having like an array of majors and interests and career paths, it's like very rewarding now. And you kind of find your film people through just like making things, and if you're like really committed to it, you find your people. But it's cool now to see all my friends working in these different industries, and I get to hear all these different stories and like see their lives like develop in just totally different worlds. And it's really cool to hear my friends who are working in politics, or friends who are working in nonprofits, in finance, whatever it may be. And I'm like really glad that I went somewhere where I was able to be around all those different types of people. And I think that is also good for being a filmmaker, is like having all these stories from other people of different worlds and different lives, as opposed to just knowing people who are like doing the same thing that you're doing. So I found that to be really enriching, and is paying off like more so by the day. So I think I made the right decision there.
Yeah, I agree, and I think there are so many bubbles, as we call them, whether it's within acting communities or filmmaking communities, which is quite ironic, because I think the things we do, it's I think it's almost necessary to expand and see what's outside of these bubbles, because at the end of the day, those are the stories that are being told. And with that said, so how did you guys find each other? Was it through the college majors, or did you already know each other from back home?
So he's from Birmingham, Alabama. I'm from Princeton, New Jersey. We met at Fordham. We met freshman year, like first day kind of thing, and like we just were friends. We would hang out and like do stuff together. We watched movies freshman year actually, New York Film Festival stuff, like saw The Martian together. Um, just yeah, had fun times.
Yeah, it was a very yeah, I like the story of the first time we met, which was the first day of college. And I had met Luke's roommate before I met him, and we were Luke's roommate and I and another guy and then my roommate, we were all going out that night for the first night of college, and we're all like down in the subway, and Luke is like kind of tagging along with us, like you're like with us when we think that you're going out with us, and then
I
all of a
agree to go
sudden,
out. I probably
yeah,
agree to go with them when we're at Fordham, and then I'm like,
yeah,
oh, I'm with.
and then we're at the subway like turnstiles, and then you just stop and you're like, I'm gonna go back and like watch a movie or something. And then the four of us just like went out and had like this just hilarious night um of just like where we went to a club. We were scared to use our fake IDs because we thought they'd get taken away, and then once
Oh,
we're
you had them.
inside, we're
Fake. I never even got a fake too. It's so funny. I never even had
yeah.
a fake.
So you had a
uh
fake, but he didn't have a fake.
Right.
yeah, but you could get into this event 18 plus because New York City has all these like welcome week events for college students, which is they overcharge to put all these naive college like 18-year-olds into these like giant just venues and
Warehouse.
charge like $15 for a drink that's like this big. And like even for the kids that don't drink, it still costs $20 to get in, so they're turning a profit. And we go in and we're too afraid to use our fake IDs, but once we get in there, it was like so unbearable without having a drink that we were like, you know what, on second thought, like we'll go in 21 plus, like we'll re-enter 21 plus. And then we go up to the bouncer guy and we're like, hey, actually we are 21, but we like forgot to give you our like 21 IDs, like can we like do that here? And he's like, oh yeah, like come with me. And it leads us like down this corridor and like down these steps, and we're like, oh, are we like going to a VIP section? And then he opens the door and all of a sudden we're outside. And then we just look around and he just shuts the door and we're just like on the street, like out of the venue. And then so that was a story of like my roommate and I, how like we first got connected. But it's funny, like Luke and I met each other like
And then like
that same
sophomore
night. But
He could have
Davis.
just turned you away. He he walked you down the entire
yeah,
bar to let you go outside.
yeah, he was like, come with me, like I'll take you guys to where you want to be. And it was a very elaborate attempt at embarrassing us, which definitely worked.
We had a lot of nights like that too in college. Like sophomore year, Davis, he had an apartment. Where was that? Like 100. What was that?
109th Street. Yeah.
109th Street. And like a lot of like all the college party memory, or some of like the good college party memories I have were there kind of thing. And just like hilarious stuff of like just all the people there, like beer pong and like Andrew Kaminsky, Emma Zai, like just all the chaos. Like you knew like some Audrey, like Fenter, like everyone. It was just crazy, and you knew it was all just college party stuff, which was a lot of fun and just utter debauchery. Like you never knew when you would open a door into a room, like what you're walking
Right.
into, kind of
Right.
thing.
Well, I think you guys have some good potential of creating maybe some short films based on those experiences.
Maybe
Yeah, I think so.
Awesome. And so kind of going back to how you guys met and then actually started doing films, how do you feel your dynamic is working together? Because especially with the fact that you guys are friends, and then you're sort of, put into something where you now have to be productive, somewhat professional with each other. Would you say that's easier, or is it a little harder knowing that you guys, hang out and sort of have already a social relationship established?
I mean, I feel like we actually got a lot closer making things together. I think it's like a really good like no BS type relationship where like he can call me out on whatever I'm doing. If I'm like being an idiot or totally slacking off, he'll call me out. It's more so him calling me out for slacking off, me calling him out for being like a little obsessive or like worrying too much. But it's like
I could see him staring you down now, just making sure you're saying all the right things.
yeah. Yeah, so it works out really well in that way. And it's just, yeah, it's like a very collaborative relationship where it's like I don't feel like I'm ever stepping on somebody's toes or like I'm ever going to like offend him or anything. And I think the same thing goes for him. We're both like we let things like roll off of one another, which is good. And we know that we work best that way as opposed to like there's like no contention or no like real like conflict in the way that we deal with each other. And it's very it makes for a very productive relationship. And it wasn't always like that. It took us, like writing
Yeah,
two feature films
yeah.
together, and then even three actually.
Right,
Like with
right.
the third one was so much easier than the first two. Like the third one just like sailed on by really.
Yeah.
Was done in like probably so much less time than the first two because it was just like we kind of really we knew how to deal with each other at that point. So yeah, it works out really well.
I think the thing is like, so one of my friends once said like, movie industry is like kind of crazy, Josh Shafty actually talks about it in one of his interviews. He says that like if an alien anthropologist found movies, they would think it's the strangest thing ever because like you're very carefully recording like these events that are not real and like what are we even doing kind of thing. So like if you start with the premise that like movie making is just a strange thing, why not try to have fun while you're doing it kind of thing. So Davis and I both like just try to have fun as much as we can, and I think that's like hopefully one of the things that like keeps you going in the end of the day, makes you want to wake up, is just having fun kind of thing.
So I also wanted to mention because sort of looking through your portfolio, I saw that you guys, and I will say in a rather short span of time, especially for college students or postgrads, you created films in different genres, which I don't think is typical for a lot of young filmmakers. And it sort of got my curiosity sparking. Was that sort of on purpose, or did you guys just kind of wanted to cover all your interests?
I think that's wasn't intentional. It's purely just like following different interests we have, and I think both of us are pretty like our minds can kind of like bounce around and like we think about just like different stuff. So I think that's the result of it's not like we have a very specific like, oh, we're going for only a specific type of comedy or only a specific type of action. We're a little all over we like to jump around a lot, so I think that's just a part of it. But hopefully there are certain, if you see the stuff that we make, you hopefully find, I guess, like some kind of like, oh, that actually is the through line to it kind of thing. So anyways.
Yeah, well, I thought it was cool because from my experience, especially doing like student films, and I've even been in some where it's like the freshman year they create like a black and white no sound film about some grieving romance, and then
Right.
come senior year and I'm gonna make my thesis about the same grieving romance in color, you know.
Right, but it's better. It's better. I'm sure it's a little bit better. There's probably a gradation of improvement there, and I bet if you keep making that film, it'll probably keep getting better.
Yeah, but
so prolific, when you keep seeing people, they'll make the same film a couple times, but they do get better.
no, absolutely. I mean, I'm not bringing any pessimistic overview on this, but I just think it's very cool that you guys sort of just reached out to all areas. I don't know if it maybe to see what works, but I thought it was interesting because usually when usually when you see portfolios, it's sort of in kind of one main thing. But seeing that you guys are young and in college, I just thought it was cool. And I think most of the films, obviously maybe the ones that you did earlier. In comparison to like the stamp collector, maybe different in quality or value or whatever you wanted to put on it. But I do think it's kind of fun to see those different genres that are there.
Yeah, thank you, Bartek.
Yeah.
Do you have one of those black and white films? I want to see that.
Well, they're not on my reel, I'll tell you that.
Okay.
Because I actually had one of them on my reels, and I made the amateur mistake of putting one of the scenes first on my reel, and everyone always thought their sound wasn't working. But that's another story for another day. I want to go back a little bit to the stamp collector. And I think this is sort of an interesting point that a lot of filmmakers have a lot of questions on. Even me, I'm curious as well. When submitting a film like The Stamp Collector to certain film festivals, what is your approach on that? Where do you submit the film when it comes to film festivals?
So the story of the last year for me of submitting the Stamp Collector all around to I think like 80 film festivals. My approach was I'm just going to submit it to as many as I can. And I think that was the mistaken approach. I was told by a very wise friend of mine, his name's Tyler Macri. He's had his short films play at Slam Dance, but he's an accomplished 25-year-old filmmaker. He went to Ithaca College. And what he said is, listen, when you make a short film, what you want to do is have your tiers and send it to your first tier first and try and get into one within the given year. Once you get into that, send it to your heart's desire to the other ones. But really, you want to go for the high tier, what you see as your high tier festivals. Because if you can open at one of those, that in of itself is such a showcase of your work, as opposed to like playing in 15 film festivals, but those are in your hometown. And although those are great, you should do those and you should submit every film you have, you should submit to film festivals. I think you want to go for the gold, why not?
I also want to ask you about, I mean, I guess everyone is different in terms of quantity, but I think a lot of what people don't realize is that just the portion of submitting to film festivals has to be taken into consideration for the budget, because
Yeah.
some festivals are cheaper than others, but if you're
Yeah.
paying, let's say, $100 for each festival, just 10 festivals, that right there is $1,000. And that $1,000 can be a fourth of the budget of your whole short film.
Yeah.
So is that something that you guys are scrupulous about, or just kind of see where it goes?
I am scrupulous about it. I like as a part of this, as a part of this process, like I'll go and sell my entire Blu-ray collection kind of thing to go and, submit to another thing, to get one last chance. So
Yeah. Well,
it's
who
like
needs the Blu-ray
that's how,
collection, right?
yeah. So someone recently called me. I did an interview with it's called Overdue Rentals. It's a podcast, and we talked about AI, the Spielberg movie actually. We got into like a lot of the nerdy stuff about that. And the gentleman who did it, who liked the short a lot, he called me an impresario, which I had to Google. I was like, wait, what is an impresario? Do you know what an impresario is?
No, I don't.
Look up the definition. It basically is like it's this person who in the theater in the old days would kind of become the lead, or like was able to be the lead because they would put everything they had into the piece kind of thing from like a financing standpoint. So they were both the star and the producer. So if you can't find your De Medicis to support you, you gotta do it yourself, kind of thing.
All right, so we'll get to the last question of the show, which might take you an extra minute to think about, but in a sort of crossover fantasy, which character from a film that you like or may not like
Ooh.
would you like to see in another film or appear in another film? Now, this can be a crisscross between a horror and a romantic comedy, or a drama and
I
a,
love this
and
so
a
much. This is big.
blockbuster. But if you were to place a character from one film in another, and just see a sequel of it for another 2 hours, or maybe see the original with that character's given effect, what character, again, I'll just ask, would you like to place in another movie?
There were some rumors when they were going to do the Man of Steel sequel, Batman vs Superman, which I didn't like when I saw in theaters. I haven't seen the Snyder cut of that. That Christian Bale's character from The Dark Knight would have been the Batman in that. And Bale talked to them for like a week in 2013 before they made that movie in 16. And I was always like so fascinated because when they were having those talks, that was only a year removed from The Dark Knight Rises. I was a kid in high school. I loved the Dark Knight trilogy kind of thing. And for me, that was always like a what if of like you had seen the Christian Bale Dark Knight from those three movies intermixed with the Henry Cavill, what they were trying to do with that Superman. I was just like, that's to me, well, it's like Nick Cage trying to play Superman in the 90s. If you ever seen that picture of him in the suit. And then Ryan Gosling, the character who I'd want to pull is like Ryan Gosling plays this guy named Luke Clanton in Place Beyond the Pines, and he's so brooding and ominous, and he's got like this awesome face tattoo. He's like a motorcycle rider, and
Yeah.
Ryan Gosling was also in the talks to be cast as Batman, and
Oh,
I always love as the Ben Affleck Batman those years, not the Rob Pattinson one. I don't think he came out of
but
that.
let me just cut you off. I want to be very clear.
Yeah,
You are putting the character, not the actor, in the movie.
I know, but I mean
Oh, okay.
Luke Glanton from The Place Beyond the Pines, played by. Yeah, but you're right. I'm kind of fudging it here. I'm trying to, but what I'm saying is take Luke Glanton,
You're being sneaky. That's what you're that's what you're doing.
yeah, who's played by Ryan Gosling, and throw him into Batman versus Superman. Chef's kiss. That's my pick.
I would have to go Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite because I think he's one of the best characters maybe ever. I would put him in. I would
Uncle Rico.
I would put
The
him
He would
in.
Titanic.
in some of those football movies, like Longest Yard. Wouldn't he be great in Longest Yard? Because he'd have the arm.
I wouldn't put him in a football movie though.
Okay.
I would put him in. I would put him in Superbad as the guy who they show up to his party and he gets like really mad because Jonah Hills is grinding on his girlfriend.
I think that's such a comfortable fit that I don't think people would have even noticed watching Superbad. I think he would have fit
Yeah.
totally in that world.
Uncle Rico.
Yeah, there's something about him in that world that I would love to see because it's just a different type of comedy, but I feel like he would really like fit in with those guys. So yeah, that's my answer.
That was
Yeah, that was a good question.
That's
I
the
like
first
that.
time I asked that question, and I like it, so I'm gonna continue with it.
Please do. I want to see what other
Maybe,
people say.
maybe with some once deep fake technology comes out more, maybe we'll play around with it and
Oh man.
make your guys' fantasy dreams come true.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. We wish you the best of luck with Stamp Collector. We hope it goes far, and I know it's already going far already. And wish you the best of luck in general in your future endeavors. And we hope you guys can stay with us. Give us advice on some of the things that we're working on. And with that, I'd like to thank everybody who's been listening to us tonight. And wish everyone a very, very happy evening. Good night.